Meeting of the Albion City Council. If you have an electronic device or a phone, I'd ask that you place it on silent. I call this meeting to order, and we will begin with a moment of silence. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Domingo, if you please call the roll.
Councilmember Barnes.
Here.
Reed. Here. Brown.
Here.
Lawler.
Here.
Spicer.
Here.
French.
Here.
And Mayor Brown.
Here. Are there any comments from council this evening? Councilmember Lawler, Councilmember Barnes, Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you, Mayor. I have received a couple complaints about our sound system on this side. They're not able to hear us on this side. It's okay on that side, but not this side.
If you, one recommendation. So, I've heard a similar.
Okay.
If we can, maybe pull the mics just more like just directly towards you, and then actually, if you move Councilmember Reed's just like more directly.
Okay, I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
So it's on the record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Barnes.
I'm happy to announce receiving permission from the Albion Economic Development Corporation, the executive board, that we'll be allowed to use their property under proper licensing for our food court food trucks. This June and July, right now we have on schedule 5 sponsors to come up and sell their different ethnic foods. We're trying to do it like we did at the Michigan Municipal League. You know, you back your food trucks in, you have different types of food. Right now it'll be on Fridays and Saturdays starting in June and July. We're hoping all people come and participate. We're trying to bring some life back to that neighborhood one step at a time. And I want to thank the EDC and Amy for such an expedient permission to do so. And we are still finalizing our dates because we want to have the trucks there when we say they're there, and we want to get our marketing strategy out and move forward. Thank you.
Councilmember Spicer, Councilmember French.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say I'm excited to announce that the City of Albion and the council, with council approval, have created an opportunity for you to get involved in shaping your neighborhood by joining the Neighborhood Planning Council. Each precinct will have a council committee, and the first round of meetings for 5th Precinct will take place Thursday, June 7th at 7 p.m. at the Marshall Opportunity High School. And I just want to encourage residents in all the precincts, but especially, since I have the floor, Precinct 5, to please attend. We want you to be involved in what's happening in your neighborhood, in the city, and the community to make it a better Albion. Please attend and get involved, and I look forward to seeing you all, residents of Precinct 5, on Thursday, June 7th at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Councilmember French.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple of things. First of all, Councilmember Barnes, where are these food trucks going to be?
Well, I wanted to get the marketing plan together before I 100% announce it. It'll be in the historically black business district, formerly known as the Corner, on the intersection of Austin and Albion.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Secondly, Interim City Manager Scott Kipp and I attended the legislative train ride to Chicago on Friday. I want to thank Mayor Brown for not being available so I could go. It was very illuminating, and it was well worth the time and effort. I learned an awful lot about what Amtrak and MDOT does together collectively. So I just wanted to share a few things. The first is that the City of Battle Creek, in the last 6 months or so, received a federal designation as an Amtrak quiet zone. And a quiet zone is just as you would imagine, that the train whistle doesn't blow at night. in a quiet zone. This is a federal designation, and as long as we meet requirements like having gates at all crossings, which I think we do, then we can apply as a city to be a quiet zone. I don't know about you, but I live very close to the railroad tracks, and mostly I've grown accustomed to it, but there are times when I'm restless and not sleeping well, and having that train go through at 2:30 or 4:30 in the morning, blowing the whistle, it can be a real pain. So I'm hoping that that's something we as a city can look into and start. We also talked to them about the possibility of decorating our train station. We know that the Citizens to Beautify Albion are going to be planting flower boxes in various places, and they had talked to us about perhaps decorating the train station out on Eaton Street, and so we've been given permission, as long as we meet the 20-foot connection or distance from the tracks, that we are welcome to do that. So I just want, if anybody from CBA is listening, they have permission to do that. We also talked a great deal about high-speed rail and its future and where it's going and coming. And as part of that, you might remember over the last, 10 or 15 years, maybe longer, the city has been involved with discussions with Amtrak about things like closing crossings, and we've closed a few. But we were reassured once again that because we are on a curve that therefore has to be pitched, it's very difficult to run high-speed rail, high speeds over, say, 60 miles an hour on those lines, because they're not banked like they're supposed to, and it's really hard to bank a railroad track across the street. So I think that we're not likely to see the 108, 110 miles an hour that Scott's radar was showing us on his cell phone while we were traveling, but it's exciting to see how easy it is that we can be engaged with these sorts of things. So thanks again.
Further comments from council? Oh, Councilmember Reed.
Did you all, by any chance, get the name of anybody from Amtrak? We've been trying. There's a group here in Albion that definitely wants to work on that area, but we never could get information on who we should get in touch with.
We pretty much have permission to work in that area as long as we stay on the depot property and out of the right of way of the train. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I want to acknowledge and thank Mr. Jim and Stacy Stewart for hosting me. That's who I was meeting with on Friday when you were on the train. Allowing me to use his business today for our monthly conversation with residents. We actually went really well. I had some really interesting conversations. And actually, one of the things I'll bring up now, there was I'll bring that up during future agenda items, but there was an interesting question that went well, and just want to remind the community that's every month. Normally it's on the fourth Monday of every month, but because of Memorial Day this month, we bumped it up. So I want to thank them and for the residents who came out to participate. Seeing no further comments from council, we're going to move on to the city manager report.
Just three things. Remind everybody, this coming Monday, May 28th, is our annual Memorial Day parade and celebration starting at 10 a.m. The parade normally goes from Erie down Superior Street to the cemetery. It should be the same this year. Council is welcome to participate as well. On the 28th at 5:30 p.m., we have our second community bike ride. If anybody's interested in coming to that, it's a good time. We get a chance to ride around the community, see some of the new trails that we have. And then on Saturday, June 9th, the annual French Market will be in Stouffer Plaza from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Councilmember French.
So it's my understanding that MDOT will not be north of Cass. So is there an opportunity to have our parade?
I was thinking about that, but I haven't talked to anybody yet, so.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So it might change. The route might change.
We might go all the way through downtown. Yep.
That's what I was hoping. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have presentation this evening on the Juneteenth celebration. Councilmember Reed.
Okay. Juneteenth, this year it's always the third Saturday here in Albion. It has been for years. We're also going to have it on the 14th, which is the Thursday. And on the 14th, we're going to have a pastor's salute. We contacted all the pastors here in Albion, and we're going to have a dinner, a red carpet, black tie affair for pastors with a dinner and a program, and I was teasing them at Exinition, and I was telling them, pastors will not get a chance to say one word. Because if you give them a chance to say one word, we will be there forever. And this is going to be lighthearted, it's going to be fun, and it's going to be entertaining. And so we would like for you to salute your pastor by coming out. Pastors are free. There's tickets for people who would like to attend, and I have some to sell, so does Sonia and some more people around Albion. And come out and salute your pastor, because we realize that we've got some pretty good pastors around here. They do a good job of kind of keeping us straightened out, and so therefore we want to salute them. And then that's going to be Thursday evening, the 14th. And then on Saturday, the 16th, is when we have our Day in the Park, Juneteenth Day in the Park. We'll start out 11 o'clock here at City Hall, and we'll get our commendation, and we'll walk down to Holland Park, and there we'll spend the day having fun. We're going to have face painting, games, 3-on-3 basketball, line dancing, relay races, just a whole lot of things going on, good food and everything. So come out and celebrate with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Councilmember French.
Thank you. Len, Saturday is the day my daughter is getting married, so sadly will not be able to attend. How can people make donations in support of their pastors, even if they're not going to be able to attend either the 14th or the 16th event? Because I'm not going to be at either place, because I'll be in Madison prepping for the wedding and then being in the wedding.
That's exactly, that's another thing. We're going to have, our group are preparing gift bags for the pastors that have a certificate in it for them, and it's got some other things in it, and a cup and some books and stuff like that for pastors and wives. And you can provide a card with, if you'd like to put a donation in it, and we will get it in your pastor's bag, because when they get there, every pastor will have a bag, and so they will have all of their stuff. And for each person who attends that would like to give their pastor a thank you card, or I think you're great, or however you feel like expressing your sentiments, you can just put, and if you'd like to give me your pastor, since you're not going to be here, I'll see to it gets in the right bag. Okay? Thank you.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Reed, if you could just briefly speak on the gospel explosion to end Saturday's event.
Oh, yes. At the end, on Saturday, after we finish up the day of having fun and food, we're going to have a Gospel Fest at the end. It starts at 5 o'clock, and it'll be in Holland Park too, and Ronnie Sims is going to be over that. And I tell you, it always turns out to be really, really good, and we're excited about the whole thing, because a lot of planning has gone into it, a lot of hard work has gone into it, and I think this is going to be just a fantastic day. So come and meet us for the Gospel Fest. We got entertainment from in Albion and from out of Albion, so should be a good day.
Any further questions from council? Thank you.
And the fire trucks are going to be there for the kids, and the firehouse is going to be there for the kids. And last year, the kids had more fun, I think, than the old people. But anyway, a lot of things going on.
Okay. Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you. I just want to ask Councilmember Reed, are you going to be having food there? Are you going to be doing the cooking and food?
Yes, we'll have food there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. We look forward to that event. We will now move on to public hearings. The first item in the public hearings is a Michigan Community Development Block Grant, Community Development Block Grant, Cdbg funding for the Erwin Avenue Improvement Project. So I'm going to open up a public hearing for that. And if there are any citizens who have public comment on the Cdbg project for Erwin Ave, please come forward at this time and state your name and address.
Nydia Wolf, 409 Erwin Ave. It's been 44 years since Erwin Ave was resurfaced, and I am really interested in knowing What types of materials will be used for the resurfacing of the street? I've watched, and Erie Street and even North Eaton Street, they're deteriorating. If we're going to have to wait another 44 years, I want something that's going to be a good solid surface.
Frank Pasick, 900 South Eaton Street. I'd like to possibly have a study done on the speed limit out there. It used to be 35 or whatever, and they lowered it because of St. John's School. Well, I've got some news. There's no longer a St. John's School, so they can raise the speed limit up to where it used to be. But anyway, that needs to be done out there. It's a wide open space, and does it need to be 25 out there? That's a study for the public safety, and it used to be 35 from Woodlawn all the way out, but they put the school out there again, so there's no more school there anymore. So I think that should be studied also when they for signage and everything when they do this. So I ask you to consider that. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment on the approval of the CDBG funding for Erwin Avenue improvements?
Belated Weeks, 917 Luther Drive. I just wondered if there was going to be some kind of a warranty guarantee on Erwin Avenue. I don't know how you go about that, but it is a concern because, like Nadia said, it hasn't been done in so long. Make some kind of a guarantee.
Thank you. Is there any further comments? Okay. Okay. Seeing no further comment, I'm going to close the public comment portion of item 1A, and then we'll, if the interim manager will provide just some clarification about what those improvements are and the match.
This grant is actually a grant that we applied for last year and were turned down for. And this project would have happened this year had we received those grant funds. The MEDC has contacted us and advised us that this is available again. They believe they have the funds and have asked us to resubmit this grant project. So we're hoping that it's going to happen through this process. This grant will allow for the replacement of some infrastructure under the road, and that's what's going to pay for most of the resurfacing of the road because we have to tear up the road to get the infrastructure underneath the road. And so once that surface or once the infrastructure under the road is done, that whole road will be resurfaced with the gravel below it the way it's supposed to be, and then the surface redone. So that should make a big impact on the whole road and the life expectancy of that road.
Okay. So the match, right? The 10,000.
I don't know what that is, so I don't want to. I haven't looked at the grant yet.
Okay. Are there any comments from council? Well, actually, we should probably take a motion. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
Moved and second. Is there any discussion from council? Councilmember French.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the thing that I'm excited about this grant with respect to some of the comments received from the public is that because this is a total rebuild of the road, it's going to be longer lasting than just the mill and fill, which is what we typically do as a city. So a mill and fill can expect to last between 8 to 15 years, depending on traffic and snow removal. And so if you rebuild the road entirely, it's all new materials. The base has changed. The composition of road base has changed over the last 15, 20 years. So I think that we're going to see a much better outcome for this street than other streets that have just been milled and filled. So I will support this.
Yeah, is there any further comment from the council this evening? Yeah, so it's exciting news, and I think the city's inclusion in Project Rising Tide has been a help in securing this. So seeing no further comments, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Barnes?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Lawler?
Yes.
Spicer?
Yes.
French?
Yes.
And Mayor Brown.
Yes. Okay. We're going to open up public hearing number 2. It's on sale of city-owned property located at 702, 704, 706, and 708 West Erie Street. If there are any public comments on that, if you please come forward and state your name and address. Okay. Seeing no comments, I will close the public comment portion of the public hearing on the sale of city-owned property, and we will we'll have discussion. Well, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Would you want to give a rundown of what's taking place? Or?
So at the last meeting, we agreed that we would sell the property, those 4 lots, for $1 each plus the closing costs. Since then, Mr. Sims has returned a counteroffer requesting that the city pay half those closing costs. So.
Okay. Councilmember Burns.
I will make comment on this, however, but I will abstain from voting because it's a first line blood cousin of mine, and I think there will be a conflict of interest if I voted. However, I do want to give some history of my experience with these type of situations in Grand Rapids. Back in the 80s, we provided dollar homes and dollar property. There were homes on the property that needed rehabilitation. And to bring back residents and business to the area, the homes were given to people for $1. However, we didn't do our homework. We didn't establish if people were gainfully employed. We didn't establish if people had the financial sustainability to complete the remodeling of the homes to meet code. There was a great start. Many people got those homes for $1 and that property for $1, and they ultimately lost them and they came back on the city's roll. In this situation, I would just ask the council be diligent to see that what's the plan in writing for the property, what's the financial stability to see that vision coming through, because we don't want it to revert back to us, or we don't want it to become some type of situation where it's in conflict with the best interest of the city. If somebody, it's a residential district, that if somebody decided to build, we should know up front. We should have all of this in writing prior to the sale of the property, based on my experience, because it really got ugly in Grand Rapids. So I'm hoping you just be diligent in your homework, that you know what's going to go on that property, if it can be sustained, and if it's within the city vision. I also have a statement to make that we also could be opening up a situation where other residents might see property around town in these isolated spots. This used to be part of the urban renewal sector, and say, hey, you did it over here, I'd like to buy one over here. And with Albion being so progressive right now, property is real valuable. Over in Precinct 1, I've seen 2 new contractors I've never seen before purchasing homes and rehabbing those homes, and that's definitely for financial profit. Thank you.
Attorney Harkness.
So since Councilmember Barn raised a question of conflict of interest, I just wanted to remind the council that under our charter, if a council member indicates that they have a substantial direct or indirect financial interest in a question, the council needs to vote on that determination before it can vote on the underlying question. And it's the remaining members of the council that have to vote on that, and Councilman Barnes doesn't vote on whether or not he has a conflict of interest. So if he believes that he has a direct or indirect substantial financial interest, the rest of the council would need to vote to excuse him from the vote before they can vote on the underlying question. Just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Councilmember Brown and Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you, Mayor. So I didn't hear a direct or indirect financial interest listed as the reason for requesting the to abstain for the vote, so.
So, oh, 1 second. Councilmember Spicer, then Councilmember Barnes.
Well, Councilwoman Brown basically stated what I was going to ask for clarification on, specifically what financial interests would Councilman Barnes have. So that was my question, as well as, yeah, that was my question, Councilwoman. Yeah, thank you.
Councilman Brown.
Well, prior to the meeting, I did talk to Sonia and told her how I felt about this item, that he was my cousin, and I don't support it, and I didn't want to go against a family member, so I tried to get out. I tried to sneak my way out. I knew it, color. I knew the rule. I didn't think y'all would catch it, color bustle. That's the way I did. I can't be honest, so.
You are.
Go ahead. And then I can do, I got to vote. That's all to it.
Yeah. Councilmember French.
I would move that we not approve Councilman Barnes' wish to abstain from the vote, seeing that there are no financial connections to that process.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, so we're going to vote now to, there's a motion to not allow an exemption from voting. Is there any discussion from council? Okay, seeing no discussion, all those in favor say yes?
Yes.
All those opposed? Okay. Attorney Harkness.
The one other thing I wanted to mention to council is, one thing you should be extremely cautious with this, what I'll refer to as the counteroffer for the purchase of this property, is in asking the council to foot the bill for half of the closing costs. Arguably, the council could be using public funds for a private purpose, because what you're doing is using public funds to allow a private citizen to purchase property. And so I would strongly caution the council about going down that road. I think eventually you should develop a policy on maybe a percentage to charge for vacant lots, but I think you're heading for a potential problem if you start footing the bill for individual citizens to transfer property to them.
Councilmember, Councilmember Spicer, and then
well, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to clarify. I believe in the charter, and correct me, Chief, if I'm, or Attorney, incorrect, that there is a specific percentage. Am I mistaken in the charter that we charge 10%?
All it says is that we can sell the property for less than the fair market value after a hearing, but when we're talking about, we're not talking about selling it for less than the fair market value. The counteroffer was that we sell it for $1 and then we pay half of the closing costs to a title company and arguably recording fees to the county clerk. So it's a slightly different proposition.
Okay, my second question is, we have a counteroffer in front of us. We have to either accept or reject this offer. We cannot do a counteroffer to his counteroffer. Am I correct?
You hypothetically could. Every time, and I think what the council needs to keep in mind is, every time a counteroffer is made, it's a rejection of the previous offer. So the only one in play is the current one with changes. So you made an offer, you made a counteroffer. Your original offer is no longer valid. You made a counteroffer to the counteroffer. That original counteroffer is no longer valid. So what you're left with, the only valid offer out there right now is the one from Mr. Sims.
Thank you.
You explained what I wanted.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. So at the last meeting, I do believe there was a property that we did cover the closing, all of it. Is that correct? Did you mention a property that we had sold and we did not ask the buyer to cover the closing costs, which prompted you in this occasion to do so? Did I misunderstand that?
I mentioned that when we bought the property from the land bank, we paid the closing costs on the property behind the brewery there that we bought, but I don't know about the sale.
From a governmental agency, I wouldn't be concerned about it.
I don't believe that was the example I'm referring to, but I could be mistaken. So, but I thought I remember there was a reference to to another property that we didn't collect the closing costs for, and that was the prompt in this situation to say we need to address the closing costs from the person wishing to purchase. So I could be mistaken, but I thought that's what I remembered.
I'm not sure, but if it was with another governmental agency, I wouldn't be concerned about it from one to the other. If it was with a private agent, with a private entity, I would be concerned about it. And certainly going forward, the city should, if we're selling to a private entity, we shouldn't be paying closing costs.
Thank you. I wanted to. Yeah,
so that we can be expeditious here, the question was asked about the counteroffers. If we wanted to say we're not going to pay closing costs, but we are willing to do the other sale to put it back on the tax rolls, what would we need to do?
I think as a matter tonight, you'd have to vote to reject the counteroffer and maybe just say our offer of whatever previous meeting would have been the 7th, I think, when you made the last offer, or was there one in between? That offer, you can just reaffirm that offer and say that offer remains open and it's fine. And it's either take it or not.
I think so. But you reviewed that before tonight, right?
The offer?
His offer.
Yeah, I saw his counteroffer.
Okay.
The clerk sent it to me in advance of the meeting.
Okay. But the concern, was it concerning when you got it, or was there a concern then, or?
What do you mean?
What I'm saying is, it would have been helpful to hear that concern before, because then we probably could have, dealt with it before kind of pushing it out.
Well, I thought you wanted to discuss it as a council.
Well, no, I understand that, but just to voice the concern, but go ahead, Councilmember. Okay, Councilmember French has the floor. Councilmember French.
So I think that I would be opposed to any expenditure of state or city funding to support a private citizen. I think that I like what our city attorney has said we should do. I think that because this is a public hearing, I don't think there was a way to not have this appear on this agenda for discussion. So I think we're behaving in an appropriate fashion. So I'm confused as to what your concern is.
Well, my concern, and then I'll open it back to council. What I'm saying is, if there's something that is on its face potentially improper,
I see what you're saying.
Then it's important that if, it's similar to what happened when we were mentioning about I don't know if you're what that means, but the medical marijuana issue, and that came up. If there was a concern before, that's usually what we, whether it's in kind of a manager's memo or something like that, the council is usually notified of that before it gets to us.
Right.
And so that's what I'm saying.
I see
So
what you're saying.
on the face of it, that's
right.
improper, right? So, or potentially problematic. So, are there any? So I should say I don't have any problem with voting to not approve that as it's stated, and then kind of going back and allowing the resident to come back with the, covering the closing costs. But that's, so there's actually not a disagreement here, and there's not any kind of
Right.
misunderstanding. I think just a little bit more clarity. Council, Attorney Harkness.
So I I guess as a matter of contract law, to be clear, what the council needs to do tonight, because the counteroffer made by Mr. Sims was in effect a rejection of the city's offer to purchase the lots at $1 a piece plus the closing costs. The city needs to vote tonight to basically reaffirm their offer from the previous meeting, and whatever you want to put on it, whether to make it a final offer, to make it clear that obviously you can't go lower than $1, and the city can't pay, the closing costs. So, I mean, whether you call it a final offer or whatever, a non-negotiable offer, but either way, the city's got to, it can't just say reject, because then you're kind of in limbo. You've got to, if you're going to still agree to sell the property for the previous offer, you need to affirmatively vote to put that offer back in place.
Okay, so basically we're saying there would have to be a motion to just say that, yeah, our previous initial, okay.
A rejection of that offer and
Yeah.
reaffirmation of the previous.
Okay. Councilmember French.
So I would like to amend the resolution of approval or into two things, right? So we have to, we can vote down the motion that we are doing, correct?
I think the best thing to do, I don't think, do we have to vote to formally reject it, or can we just, or just vote to make the counter offer?
I think
Reject offer
I guess for purposes of clarity, I would do a rejection and
then a reaffirmation.
the new
Okay.
offer.
Okay, so we'll start with that one. So is there a motion to not,
We have a resolution before us that we
Okay.
have to then vote down.
Okay. Okay. Then I guess we can make a motion, and then after that, just, yeah, okay. So is there a motion, well, go ahead, who moved?
Well,
The initial motion was to approve.
Right, so we just say no to that.
Okay, but see, if you made the motion to approve, you can't vote against.
I didn't.
Okay, okay, and then who seconded? Okay, so you all, I don't think you can vote no, I don't think you can vote no.
I
if you-
can't, because I
Yeah,
made the
you made the motion.
The support can.
Yes. Okay. So if there's no further discussion, this is a vote on the resolution before us to approve the counteroffer offered by Mr. Sims. If you are voting no, we are going to basically be rejecting it. If you vote yes, that's accepting it, and we've taken into consideration what our attorney has said about the issues with that proposal. So.
Point of order.
Yes.
In this new rules that y'all made with this lawyer from Lansing, even though you make the motion, in these new rules y'all got, it does say you can vote against a motion that you made. Me and Cheryl went over that prior to her leaving. Now, the new lawyer y'all got, I read it myself. Yeah.
Well, no, the rules are based on Robert's Rules of Order, so usually if it's silent on that, the maker of a motion can't vote against their own motion.
Based on the council rules of procedure, which you guys went and did, it's in writing, which you guys
So,
made it.
so,
However, if you want Robert's rules to supersede that, you can,
okay,
but
so,
you have to put that in
so
the
to be expeditious here, I'm ruling that if you are the maker of the motion, you can't vote against your own motion. So if the council wants to overturn that ruling, we can do that, but that's, as a parliamentary decision, I'm ruling that the maker of the motion can't.
But still, I like to appeal. I'm gonna make the appeal just because
Okay.
you stated that to be expeditious. We'll cover that another time. Rules that we have for council rules of procedure.
Oh, okay.
But I'll go along with being expeditious.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know the rules.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Reed,
Yeah. Okay.
That is correct.
Go ahead. Yeah, so just as a clarification, again, we're gonna have to reject this because, well, we're gonna vote on it, but the attorney has pointed out a defect in that could cause issues, so.
Is it me? No.
Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
No?
Spicer,
No.
French,
No.
Barnes,
No.
and Mayor Brown.
No. Councilmember French.
I would like to make a motion that we extend a final offer to Mr. Sims for the original offer of the sale of these properties for $1, plus closing and recording costs associated with that transfer of those properties to him.
That he covers this.
That he cover.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We sell them to him for $1 plus the closing and recording costs associated with that.
Support.
Okay. Motion and support. Is there any further discussion? I will say that I had the opportunity to talk to the assessor today. The city has owned those since 2000. So, we've had them for 18 years. There was some discussion at the conversation with residents today about how the city can handle, going forward, advertising property, and so I'll bring that up later on the agenda, but that property sat there for a long time, and we do pay to mow it, and at least it would bring it back on the tax roll. So, seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes?
Spicer,
Yes.
Then 3 minutes. We ask that you observe proper decorum. When you come forward, please state your name and address. Are there any public comments this evening on agenda items?
I don't know if it's an agenda item. Marcia McGarrah, 1000 West Erie.
Okay.
And I'm representing the project, the new rehab that's going on in West Erie. And
That might be for the later.
we've got an offer in on some property.
It's
Not on the agenda?
Yeah, so
We do have the discussion to say it was city property then, so she could probably just.
Is that city owned?
Discussion of sale of property.
Or is that
city owned property? That's city owned property. She's talking about the property behind it.
I mean, we had an offer in for 3 weeks. We're
Okay.
curious
Go ahead. Yeah.
if there were any questions for us on our offer.
We're not aware of who you made the offer to.
The offer's been made. John Tracy's been working on this, and it'll probably be on the agenda for the next council meeting.
So it's being processed by the administration, so it hasn't got to us yet. But
It's in your packet.
No, it's not.
John's pointing to the packet. It's in the packet.
yeah,
That's what we came tonight, so if you had any questions for us, we came from Kalamazoo and Battle Creek. We're doing the new rehab. It's land that I think went back from the previous owner years ago, and you're not getting taxes on it now.
so
Yeah, there's paperwork in the packet on it, but it was put in the packet, but it wasn't put on the agenda. So.
Can I make a comment? One thing I learned from tonight.
well, sir. So a couple of things. Can you come to the mic so that we can hear you? Thank you.
One thing I learned from tonight is we will pay the closing costs. We will pay the recording.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Is there any further public comment this evening on agenda items? Okay. Seeing none, we will. Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to items for individual. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Consent count.
Other question? No?
Yeah, I'm sorry, because we'll have to bring it back a little bit later. We're going to move on to consent calendar. This is to approve a regular session minutes from May 7th, approve the application from the Fireworks Committee for the use of Barnes Park and Riverside Cemetery for the festival, the 4th of July annual fireworks viewing, and the assembly permit for a community picnic on July 14th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Okay. Items for individual discussion. Request approval of second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2018-4. This is to amend various zoning codes relative to medical marijuana. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Do you want to have?
So just briefly, This is just an amendment to zoning ordinance for the relevant portions to allow for the dispensaries. Since council authorized those to operate in the city, the zoning ordinance had to be amended as follows. So it amends to allow in the M1P, M2, M2P districts. Oh, apologies. This is not for dispensary. This is for the others.
Okay.
The other facilities.
Okay.
I got ahead of myself. This is for the zoning to allow for the growers, safety compliance processors, and safety secure transporter facilities. This is just a second reading to amend the zoning ordinance for the operation of those facilities in the M1P, M2, M2P districts.
And so just one quick question. So the dispensary reading, that's going to be next?
The zoning ordinance, I don't know where the planning commission is.
Okay. Okay. Is there any further discussion from council? Okay. Seeing none, would have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
French,
No.
Barnes,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
and Mayor Brown.
Yes. Discussion approval of 608 Austin Avenue. I saw Director Trees. Oh, right. I'm looking in the back again. Right. Can you kind of just give us an update where we stand on that?
John Tracy, Director of Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement, 608 Austin Ave. We're working to see if we may not be able to add this in with some of the county and save the city some money.
Okay.
And look at some potential other work down the road where we may wind up working mutually with them.
Okay.
So probably have a meeting later on this week or first part of next week with a couple.
So I guess the one question, because we have a discussion approval here, but is there anything we need to authorize you to do?
Right now, no.
Okay.
As soon as we have a meeting with the county, an actual sit-down meeting on it, we've been talking back and forth, basically with a couple of the different people at the county, but there's a good chance we may be able to work something out with this particular one, which is save the city money, and then down the road, as was asked, if we could do more demo work with money, as a city may be able to come up with it.
Okay.
It would be beneficial to us to partner with the county.
Okay.
And if we can do that with this one here, it's safe.
Okay. Councilmember Barnes, Councilmember French.
Okay, the charge was to allow you time to approach a single contractor to tear the building down. Did you get that estimate?
No, sir. The reason being is that I contacted the county and trying to use their contractors and go through them. Otherwise, we could wind up with substantially more money into it.
Well, I'm not real happy with this because I wanted an answer on what it would cost to take it down. I've talked to this lady's family members, and I really want this building down. And I see your due diligence in trying to save the city some money, and I can go along with that. But I wish you kind of would let me know that before tonight's meeting.
Well,
I'm looking for an estimate to get this building down, but I'll let you do it your way. You're the professional, and I'll stand aside.
I apologize that I don't have a definite number tonight, but unfortunately, the county and trying to work with them and going off of some of the direction given last time too. We just haven't been able to come down with a figure yet. So,
and I think I want to thank you for, because this has actually moved fairly consistently forward. So I think that I appreciate that. Councilmember French, Attorney Harkness, and Councilmember Barnes.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, from what Councilman Barnes said, it sounds like 608 Austin Avenue is privately held, or is it held by the land bank?
It's privately held.
So we are expending city resources for a private citizen
You were absent.
Well, okay. Go ahead.
So that's my question. Are we being disingenuous by, so help me understand what the 608 Austin Avenue property is. Is it something that we are going to then buy from a private citizen as part of a larger development project? So just put some information in there.
Attorney Harkness.
So just as a matter of background, this was a property that was deemed to be a public nuisance due to its various code violations.
Okay.
We filed a lawsuit and got a demolition order from the court for it, but the owner of the property, or I should say, the co-owner of the property is out of state, in the state of Hawaii, and was in the military service, so we were unable to enforce the order against her. So, but we do have a demo order because it was a public nuisance, so we're not demoing it for a private individual. We're demoing it because if we let it stand, somebody could get injured.
Okay.
The other thing I think the council should know is part of the delay has been we did an administrative search warrant on the property. And Director Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they located asbestos in the property, and that's been part of the problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Barnes.
Well, to address the asbestos situation, it was the old black and white tile. It was nothing major. I could go in and tear it out myself. However, I and no council member or the mayor can give John Tracy a charge to do anything. We had a consensus, which is legal, to ask him to go out and give us an estimate on how much to tear this building down.
Okay.
I've been trying to get this down for 8 years, and we're at the edge of getting it done, and it's a danger to the public. And we're trying to be progressive in that area, and I'm frustrated that this has happened. This doesn't take rocket science, but I respect John enough to let him move forward and try to consolidate with the county, because it could save us some money, but that was not the consensus of the charge that this council actually
did. My understanding is we didn't vote on anything, but I think we were asking more bids.
It was a consensus right here, for bids. We couldn't take a vote, and it was a consensus of us, which we're allowed to do under council rules.
Director Tracy.
Couple different things. As I previously said, I was also asked about pursuing monies for taking down more buildings through whether it be grants or such. And then doing it this way here, I know it might take a little bit longer, but if we can make a headway with the county as being a working partner with the number of properties that they take down, then it would give us the possibility of doing more properties if we can come up with money through the city rather than waiting for them to go back to the land bank or to the county treasurer's office. I've been asked to do both, and this is why I've done it to this direction in trying to make a partnership with the county to where we can actually do more work ourselves and get more down before they go back or wait to go back on taxes.
Because I think one of the benefits, and it might not fit the exact same narrative, but even with Dalrymple, that was something where the city could not have done that by itself, and the county was able to, the county treasurer and land bank director were able to really secure some creative uses of funding to get something that was hundreds of thousands.
And they're willing to sit down and have a meeting with the mayor and us to go through this. We can go back just that one property if that's what you want to do, but if you're also looking at wanting to see what the city can do down the line, as asked also, with more properties, it's up to the city.
Councilmember French, Councilmember Barnes.
No, I was deferring to Councilman Barnes.
I understand what both of you are saying, and I can go along with that. However, there was a specified amount of money in the solid waste fund that this county, that this council voted that we could use, and there was a limit. All I asked for was an estimate. Y'all taking it way out there, but I'm gonna go along with John. But if the council, by law, has a consensus, he's the only man here that can give that guy a directive. We made a consensus to ask for an estimate. That's all I asked. Y'all blowing it out of proportion. I don't mind consolidating and saving money.
Councilmember French, Councilmember Brown.
No comment. Thank you, Councilman Barnes.
Thank you, Mayor. So I do understand Councilmember Barnes' frustration. I do see both sides, but I absolutely get it. I too was expecting to have an estimate tonight for 608 Austin Ave. I mean, the information you provided is helpful, and again, I get it, but I have to say I do understand why Councilmember Barnes is frustrated.
Well, I'm also frustrated because I'm being asked to do a couple different things here. Look at what we can do besides this one and get in a direction that we can maybe do something to take more of them down, as everybody appears to want to do in a number of different areas, especially on Austin Ave. But I mean, that's if we want to go after just the one, that's fine. I can go out and get a bid tomorrow.
I think. Go ahead.
Part of the problem here is that there was no way we could have gotten an estimate. We could have gotten a general estimate for this, but not an actual estimate. We would have to go request for proposals for this because it's probably going to be more than $10,000 to bring it down. Our hope by talking to the county on this was that we could use their bid process to vet out who we were going to have do it. So the county's already done this bid process. They take down a lot more buildings. And because they take down more buildings, usually those bids are lower for individual buildings. And if we went off of their process, we were hoping to have that number by tonight, which we did not get from them. Yeah. Where if we didn't do it this process, we would still be going for a request for proposals, trying to get bids in on it, which would take a month or two to get done.
So going forward, so I think the big picture is we want, and it's what I think I hear Councilmember Barnes has said, as he's championed that part of that particular area, is we want the blight to be gone. You know, in the long-term plan is for the buildings to be gone, the blight to be gone, and for something to be productive to be placed there. And the question is, you know, how do we do that? And so what we've been doing, basically, the council's kind of agree with Councilmember Barnes and kind of went along through this process to deal with just one particular property. And so we had these kind of estimates, we've had the checks, they've done that. I understand what Councilmember Barnes and Brown are saying in terms of the expectation of at least some kind of number value. If the city, I guess if the city, and you can tell us like how long or to what extent, just a really basic guess with the county, like what's your time frame in terms of that process of?
Well, hopefully we would have already been through this with the county. Okay. They've also been stretched out just the same as what our city staff has, being skeleton crew. Hopefully we can have a meeting with them within the next week. Okay. And see if this is something we can go forward with. If not, I mean, we can put it in the papers, and it's going to wind up being out there a month down the line as it is.
Is there?
You want to do just one building?
Is there a way just informally? I don't know if we can do that. Informally reach out to, I guess, vendors, if we have to do a full-blown RFP.
Right.
Okay.
Both on the abatement and the demo.
Okay.
I mean, I apologize. We've got a delay here, but as interim city manager Chief Kipp has said, we're trying to work something with the county where it's beneficial to even do more of these. Okay. Two besides this one.
Okay. Councilmember Spicer, Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. So what is the real possibility that could happen, and in what time frame? Since we're obviously trying to go through the county, and do you have any idea as to a time frame or possibility,
if we go through
down the road and be back to the point that we're at today? I mean,
well, for one, if we meet with the county and we can come up with whether it's something that can be pursued by both the city and the county. It would be actually quite short-term because they have a number of contractors that they've been working with and have been working in the city. Right now they have 10 of them that are going to be coming down in the city here shortly. So if we were able to work with the county and getting that on with those 10, it'd be relatively soon.
So in the brief term, is this something that you can update us at future meetings? Is there, can you keep, I mean, how do you plan, how do we know? Do we?
We'll know whether this will work or not here within the next week, primarily. When we meet, which I need to get with the mayor and set up a time.
Okay.
But
okay.
You can put the RFPs out there for the rest of it and go, I don't know if that's what you want to do. Either way, I mean, it's going to be a longer process the other opposite way to begin with.
Councilmember Spicer.
Well, thank you. Well, it certainly makes sense too if we can get bring down a couple rebuildings as opposed to one. That makes certainly good sense if there's money available to do that. However, I would hate to delay getting rid of the one building and then not be able to get rid of 3 down the road. Do you see the dilemma here?
Absolutely understand, but you'd also asked before if I can go after grant money to take buildings down, and if we're going to do that, we need to have a process in which we can do it and work with someone besides ourselves. Otherwise, it's going to be extremely too costly.
Yeah, but when I asked that, I didn't know that it would be in lieu of getting rid of this building. I thought we'd get rid of this building, you'd at the same time be researching that endeavor. However, those are my questions and concerns, and I'm going to just thank you for your info.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. So Councilmember Spicer really pretty much covered what I was going to say, but I just, no one is questioning or disappointed in the vision that you have to take care of multiple buildings. That's brilliant, and it's much appreciated. I think the frustration is coming from council has been focused on 608, and we've taken action to address 608, and we came in here tonight with a certain expectation. So I think that's where the frustration is rooted. So I think it was just a breakdown in communication, and I don't think anybody's necessarily to blame for that. It's just a teachable moment, and moving forward, let's just do what we need to do to address Austin Ave.
So we can put it out there, and what it's basically going to be is a week longer than what it would have been. Hopefully, I was hoping to be able to get something through with the county before this, and it didn't work that way. So if you want the ad to go out for the bids, we can do that, and all you're looking at is a week difference.
Okay.
1 week.
Okay, 1 week difference in terms of.
It would have went out last week in papers instead of this week if we want it.
Okay. And then, but in terms of, but then I guess I'm saying between now and our next council meeting, we would have met with the county and had that discussion.
That is the plan.
So, at this point, I guess it doesn't hurt to do it. I guess how difficult is it going to be from like a staffing, just to send this?
If we wind up being able to do this with the county, it's going to take a lot of burden off our staff. Okay. Because their staff's geared for this, and they do this all the time. Right now, it's hard to even go ahead and get enough around during the day. I mean, I could stay here 24/7.
So what?
I'd be caught up with everything.
What we can do, and I'd kind of just suggest to council. I've acknowledged, what you're saying in terms of the communication thing, but I think what our goal here is to get the buildings down with the least amount of our direct public funds as possible. That's really the goal. And so, sometimes things change to make things better. So what we can do, hopefully the council would support this, is just by our next meeting, we need to have some, resolution about the posting or what the county's going to do, and then we can approve that then, or expect it to go out by that week of the next meeting. Is that something, would that?
I'm fine.
Okay. Is there any objection to that? So that's kind of, I don't know if we need to vote on that, but I would say just the suggestion is, we'll talk to the county, see what they say. If that falls through, then we'll go back to what we had originally planned. So, is there any further comment from council? Okay. Thank you for working on this, and thank you, Councilmember Barnes, for championing this. We'll move on to item C, discussion approval procedure for sale of city-owned property. So the one thing I'll just say about this is that, so the voters in Albion in 2016 struck that portion of the charter that required us to sell it, I guess, at the assessed market value or whatever. And so it's with council now, but I think now that the city is experiencing more interest in development, we need to have some ground rules about how we're going to handle these kinds of requests. So I think we need to, obviously we're not going to solve that tonight, but we need to kind of think about some of the procedures, because some, and I don't know this, I need to do my research on it. I don't know how much property we own in commercial zones or areas. I know we own residential properties, but I think distinctions are going to have to be made between if it's something like, commercial or industrial versus residential. If it's the proximity to the person, if it's in residential who wants it, because I know the land bank has a program where, for land that's buildings that have been demolished, and if it's adjacent to your parcel, you can purchase it for $200 with some stipulations. So I think we need to, we're not going to hash that all out tonight, but I think we need to start that process of kind of laying groundwork. So, Councilmember French?
So I wasn't at the meeting last week, so not party to the conversations. I would like to see us tread with caution, that if we create pricing through this procedure, that we might lock ourselves in to opportunities that we may miss out on. My gut reaction is that we should accept no less than 10% of the market value, but market value is kind of flexible. If someone told me that an empty house lot's worth $11,000 in Albion, I would have laughed at them. I would have said more likely $3,000. So I think that I agree with everyone that the idea that we need to have some sort of procedure. We have some procedures already that exist, and so maybe we can, when we have a conversation, maybe that's now, we have a conversation that talks about what are the procedures that we have, and do we need to change any of them? Because I think that we have done things on a case-by-case basis, because it depends on who owns the property. If it's city-owned property, then what I worry about is we're giving away the farm if we sell it for too low a price. So that's where I'm thinking that there's all kinds of procedures in there. I would say 10% minimum, but we've already not done that with Mr. Sims. So,
Attorney Harkness?
I think, certainly Councilman French is not the first person I've heard express the idea of a percentage, and I don't think there's a problem with the council assigning a percentage, whether it's 10% or 15 or whatever. I think you can build in, if you kind of set a policy going forward, you can build in a caveat that, the council will not accept less than 10% of the value absent, a finding of good cause by the council or something along those lines. I mean, the charter amendment done by the voters just says you have to have a public hearing to go below fair market value. So, arguably, your 10% is probably obviously going to be below fair market value. And, if you want to do $1 a lot because you find good cause, because the kind of property is sitting off the tax rolls for 20 years or whatever, so be it. But I don't think there's a problem with assigning a percentage if that's the way the council wants to go, to kind of give yourself a baseline of where you should start. I mean, the point's well taken. I mean, the property that we were talking about tonight, I mean, collectively is probably $30,000 worth of property that's selling for $4. So.
Councilmember Spicer?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I think I agree in part with Councilman French when he said we should look at what we have and then possibly from there add to modify it in some form or fashion. I think we do. We have a contractor on staff. We have a contract with the assessor.
Yeah, with Marshall.
Perhaps they could, we could have discussions or invite them, and so that they could possibly give us some direction in that regard, as well as Attorney Harkness. I mean, assessor would know the value of a property, so whether it be a lot, land, or dwelling. So I think I wouldn't necessarily want to sign a percentage at this point. I want us to see what we have, what's out there, what's available, and in that regard.
Councilmember French, and then I have a comment.
Did you have your hand up? Okay. So here's a worst case scenario. Someone comes to the city and says, I want to buy up 6 lots in the old development area. I'm going to fight for $10 or $100 for that property. And they turn around and sell it in 6 months to a developer for 10 times what they paid for it. How do we feel about that?
Well,
so
I guess, I mean, I don't know if the city can have a, I don't think, well, I'm not going to say, but yeah. Councilmember Spicer. Did you have something?
Yeah, perfect example why we probably need to perhaps not move forward with any more until we get in consultation and get some direction as to how to proceed. I think we've got the 2 on the table. Do we have? We don't have there.
Well, I think I think what we're dealing with, and I guess I'll point to what was mentioned in my conversation earlier with some of the residents. So one, you know, we have to, you know, when I talk to the assessor, like I said, these properties have sat there, the city's ownership for about nearly 20 years. And the question becomes, you know, what did the city do to, you know, market them or, you know, put them out there for sale? You know, I can't speak to what happened 20 years ago because I was in high school. So I was not abreast of those things, but the point is, I think we probably do need to have a inventory of what we have. But then, like I said, I think it's we have to kind of thread a needle there because we have to make sure that we're not keeping people, because I think that what I've heard on a number of occasions from residents is, you know, I want this other property because I don't like how it's being maintained. I want to maintain it better, and then you put it back on the tax rolls. If we say we're going to hold on to something in hopes of, you know, a better development coming in, we might continue to wait even longer. And if the development comes in, they're going to pay property taxes too. And probably increase because they've increased the value of the construction on the land. So I think getting things on the tax rolls is important. I think we have to hash out at what point is it, you know, does it have to be sitting there for 50 years for it to be, you know, when we're saying, okay, we just want to have someone pay taxes on it. So that's a conversation we need to have. I think one of the things we probably could do is see what other cities do. You know, I know obviously we're not Chicago, but I do know that they do sell you know, lots of things for, you know, $1. But again, that's a much larger city, right? But I think again the whole point here is to have tax income from the properties that we're having to maintain and get no revenue from. So what I want to do, because like I said, we're not really going to hash this all out tonight, maybe between the attorney, the planning director, the interim manager, we can kind of see what some of the other policies are in other communities, I guess, of our size and neighboring us in this region, how they handle that. Because, you know, I understand that the one difference I'd say here, and I'm going to stop talking, is the last time we did this, there was the charter language in place where we had to sell it, and they purchased it at $3,000 some dollars, but that was actually in the urban renewal district, right? This is on the other side. It's on Erie Street, so it's not necessarily just taking from that bulk of land. So, Councilmember Reed.
I think it could be kind of like the land bank does when they question how are you going to use the land, because they want to know that you're going to use the land, that the land is going to be either something built on it, put on it, or if you're not going to do that right away, how many years do you think before you're going to do that? You know, or either just sell it for an extra area. But I think under most means you want to make sure that even if you're not going to put a house or a garage or something on it, the grass is cut. It's looking decent, and the city does not have to pay for it. Whoever purchases it has to.
And if I recall from earlier, some of the other documentation we had in this particular scenario, or the one that was referenced earlier, there was a statement made. Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah. There was a statement made that there was intentions to build on one of those combined parcels. So what I'd ask, so that we can again be expeditious here, I don't know if we need to vote on it, but just, is there anyone on council who would oppose, and you can speak up and say that, any opposition to having, like I said, the interim manager, the attorney, and the planning director look at what some other communities do, look at what the land bank does. Councilmember Reed is on the land bank board, to see, you know, what we can do to have something that's basically fair to neighbors who've sat and seen these parcels next to them sit for decades, but then also has some element of fairness, you know, if just in case someone wants to come in and build a $500,000 house on that property. Is there any objection to that? Okay. So, and can that be done by the next meeting? Just some examples that we can meet on it. We'll meet on it. Sure. Okay. This must be planning. This must be planning and code enforcement night. Item D, discussion rental certification. Director Tracy.
In your packet, there's a draft of an ordinance that's actually been written for a little over 2 years ago, which primarily is based towards what's minimal requirements under state and under state reference on the property maintenance code. Probably the best way I would say to address this would be to have a study session and allow some of the have it open to some of the rental owners and such. Okay. So you have both what's in the ordinance and what they may want to express on their part. I've met with them before in past years, and we're pretty close on agreement with a few variations, but this ordinance here is based on the very minimum requirements. So,
yeah, because I know different cities do different Correct. Things, and I know from previous conversations we mentioned how sometimes we can ease our way into the full, you know, review. Correct. You know, starting with a smaller kind of list of checks to do, and then also we, you know, it's within our I guess, authority to decide how often.
Correct.
Because it could be every 2 years. So once we do talk, 'cause we have had the president of the Albion Area Rentals Landlords Association come before us before, but once we talk with them, that's really the source of concerns, really, because I think I'm going to go on the record and say I think it needs to be done. I think that it's important for renters, which make up a large part of our population here, to be in safe facilities. So we can schedule a work session. Is there the only thing I can remember, I think the one, and we talked about this in the study session as well, but there was a concern raised, I remember, about, and maybe you can address this briefly, I guess Section 8 having a certain thing and how that doesn't meet.
Well, it would be my opinion, in my opinion, that if you go less than what is required or referenced by the state, then you're opening yourself up to basically liability if something happens.
So, are there any questions from council? Councilmember French.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that we've both been on council long enough, Maurice and Len, to know that this has been brought up a couple of times in the last 8 years. And we hear opposition from both rental property owners and some renters for fear that this will increase their costs. But I agree with our mayor wholeheartedly that this is something that absolutely separates well-run communities and those that are living more in a more difficult position. I think that we will attract better businesses, more business, if we can say to those future employees that we have certified rental property available to our citizens than if we don't. And we all hear stories about some of the problem buildings that we have. And so I just think this is just another way for our code enforcement and our planning people to sort of get a handle on an inventory of our rental property, because everyone will have to self-identify. We know that there are rental properties that we aren't aware of. And so I think that just having this sort of layer sort of protects our residents from harm, and I would support it, working toward that goal. So sign me up.
Okay, so I'll set a study session with council to do that. And is there any other additional questions? Okay, thank you. Set a date for final goal setting session. Today is the 21st. Okay, so that's Memorial Day. I'm thinking, so just for either the 24th of May or the 31st? Was it Thursdays? Would either of them work for council? And what we can do basically is have a joint discussion on the rental certification and then the goal setting session, because I think it's not going to take. I don't think the goal setting session is going to be long based on what's been previously discussed. So I'm just talking about the next 2 Thursdays. Which of those might work for council? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. For me, the 24th would work better.
Okay.
The 31st is too close to my son's high school graduation weekend.
Okay.
And I'm already stressed about it.
Okay.
So.
So would the 24th work for council?
I can do the 24th.
Okay, and we can meet at 6:30?
You guys?
Okay.
Marcola, Len?
I'm good.
Are you good?
Okay, so this Thursday, this Thursday, the 24th, 6:30, we're going to have a work session for rental certification, and then we'll also discuss the council goals. Okay, that was
in that
easy.
order or the other order?
I think rental certification shouldn't be because as it's been, like you said, it's been discussed, so I think basically the concern is that will it deter landlords from continuing to do that, and I don't think that's the case. Okay. So, okay, thank you. So we're going to move on to request approval of waiver for first right of refusal on Calhoun County. This is item F, on Calhoun County foreclosed properties. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
Okay, moved and seconded. Who wants to? Would you want to speak to?
I can speak to that. These are just the properties that Land Bank sends over on tax foreclosure on a yearly basis. We had the first right of refusal. If we were to want one of these properties, we could take these properties from them. These are all residential houses. I don't know, in the past, we've just generally refused to take any of those properties and turn them back to the Land Bank. So.
Is there any discussion or questions from council? Okay. Seeing none, Councilman French.
I included for you a map on Google Maps. It's a handout that I gave you that was just added to your packet that has a bunch of blue dots on it. Scott's holding it up. I just basically put into Google Maps the addresses of all those buildings, just so you can see the nice even distribution we have in our city of these foreclosed properties.
Can we not ask a question?
No, not right now. It's yeah.
Public comment.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions from council? Okay. Seeing none, I'd ask for a roll call vote to approve or to just refuse any of the properties right now.
Councilmember Spicer,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
and Mayor Brown.
Yes. Okay. Last item, item G, discuss for approval of firm for city manager search. So we have been in possession of the proposals for a couple of weeks here. The one outstanding, Tom's not here. Oh, you're right. Okay, I have my old one. Okay, I'll do that after. I spoke with the finance director. His statement to me was that, in terms of budgeting for this, we'll have in excess of 30,000 if need be. So we're definitely with this, the proposals that we receive are within range of what our budget can handle. I'll have the attorney, before we start, actually repeat the communication that he sent to council regarding what the code says about, I don't know if it's code or charter, but says about the evaluation of the bids and just making sure that the balance between lowest cost and meeting the needs. So can you just repeat that for us?
So, if you recall, earlier this month I sent the council an email following our meeting that talks about the city ordinance regarding awarding bids, and basically what I wanted to make clear, so there wasn't any questions, that your selection of the city manager search firm can't just be arbitrary. You're required to award the contract to what's referred to as the lowest responsible bidder. Now, that term lowest responsible bidder doesn't necessarily mean the lowest bidder. It means the lowest bidder that meets the criteria set forth in the RFP. So if the lowest bidder does not meet all those criteria, you move on to the next lowest bidder. And so the criteria that you're supposed to use to evaluate those bids are the ability, capacity, and skill of the company to perform the contractor service, whether the bidder can perform the contractor service promptly, character, integrity, reputation of the bidder, quality of performance of previous contracts or services, previous or existing compliance, sufficiency of financial resources and ability to perform, quality, availability, and adaptability of the contractual services, ability of the bidder to perform future maintenance of services for the use, and number and scope of the conditions attached to the bid. So those are some things you need to evaluate, but I just wanted to make it clear that you kind of need to start from the bottom as far as numbers and work your way up and evaluate the criteria.
The one question I did have, then Councilor French, are we basing it on the standard, in mind of that, we basing it on the standard or the not to exceed?
I'm sorry? I'm not sure I understand your question.
So each of them offered a standard rate, and then it said not to exceed. So are we basing it on the not to exceed or the standard?
I would take it as not to exceed because hypothetically your lowest bidder could go up to that amount.
Okay. Councilman French.
So I would move that in light of what Cullen has told us, and given the reputation, ability, capacity, quality of services, that we choose the Michigan Municipal League to be our search consultants. We've had good success with them in the past, as have the vast majority of communities in the state of Michigan. They are local, and they are and highly reputable. They meet all the criteria of our bid request, and so I would just move that we pick the Michigan Municipal League. Support.
So motion and support, discussion. So I think the first question I'd say, in light of what our attorney has said, is can a justification be offered for not going with the Mercer Group? Councilman French.
The Mercer Group claimed that they had done the previous search in Albion, which was clearly in error, and I'm not sure that their reputation or ability or capacity matches that of the Michigan Municipal League.
Councilmember Barnes.
I would ask that we choose the Michigan Municipal League because we are one of the founding cities. We are a member. We pay our dues. You guys actively go to their meetings and conferences, breakout sessions. You have confidence in the lawyer that I think his name is Mr. Smith from MML.
He's not from MML.
Well, he's affiliated with them. You guys feel that they're reputable. But I don't agree with us talking about other entities while we're discussing the motion of and support of MML. I think that we should direct that poignantly to the motion. They've done this job before, and we received a good candidate in the past with them. They're reputable. They go over to the Capitol to speak to the governor for us. The lawyers go over there and work with our senators and representatives for us on a daily basis. They provide us information that we wouldn't have through their own studies or our dues. We are a great city, and they're a great organization. Thank you.
So for the comment from council. Okay. So a couple of things. So the other thing that that I was impressed.
So, a point of order.
Okay.
It was my understanding that the mayor leads discussions of council members, but does not himself or herself initiate conversation. That you're.
Well, no, we're in discussion, so I can make a discussion after a motion and a second. There's discussion for all council members.
Right, but if no one has any comments but you, what I don't want to have happen personally is that that you would appear to be trying to sway the votes of the council members in the absence of any conversation or discussion or concerns of the council. That's all.
Okay, so I'm going to be very very quick in addressing that. That actually is not what we've been doing in terms of what the council. That's like logically that's not how this works, right? So we have a motion, we have a discussion. The mayor, like all council members, has one vote. I usually, out of deference to my colleagues in the council, to be collegial, allow the council members to speak and then I'll chime in. But that in no way precludes me from speaking first on an issue or voicing my opinion. And I think that the whole point of the discussion is to bring to the attention of our colleagues pertinent issues that might sway their opinion on. That's the actual point of discussion, is to provide rational discussion about why something should or should not be approved. So that's why we have discussion. So the one thing I noticed in a number of the proposals is, and like I said, it doesn't necessarily go with the volume of what was in the documentation, but you know, like obviously you pointed out, and I pointed that out too previously, like the Mercer submission in error put us as a previous client, so I don't know where that came from, so that automatically just went to their credibility. So they were ruled out. Then what I began to look at was some of the other search firms went into greater detail about, for example, this is one example in terms of vetting potential candidates in terms of kind of personality tests and kind of more thorough background checks. I think that that was interesting, and I think that that was not necessarily apparent in the MML's proposal. And so I think that that's really, you know, the thing that, based on when the attorney emailed us and I had a conversation with him, I think the council has to balance the fact that we obviously have to choose the lowest bidder, but then also balance that with the fact that, you know, what services are being provided. So obviously, if I get a luxury vehicle and it has all the bells and whistles, that's going to have to, you know, that's connected or to the price of the vehicle. So I think that it's a similar thing here. You kind of get what you pay for. So if we do say the MML based on the not to exceed fee is the second, I guess, least expensive, we also have to say, well, do they offer the other things that the other providers offer? So I think that's one of the things, because, you know, one of the things that I looked at is, and when I had this conversation with the attorney, you know, one of the things we can look at is, have they dealt with communities in Michigan that are similar to or close to our region, communities our size. So I think that those factors go into play. As again, the MML is not the only search firm in what's been submitted to us that has done searches in the state of Michigan. Councilmember Reed.
I realize that it's not the only one, but we've had good service with them. We've also had good service after we got the people, that if we had questions and things of that sort, they came to our aid and our rescue. If I was going to, you've got a lot of firms here. You've got 4. And they're all going to try to put their best foot forward or whatever, but one that's tested and tried is the one that I would stick with. I'm with MML too.
Okay. So we're having a vote for the MML, and seeing no further discussion, just going to do a roll call vote on that.
Councilmember French.
Yes.
Barnes.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Brown.
No.
Lawler.
No.
Spicer.
No.
And Mayor Brown.
No. Okay, so what I'd like to do is to talk about, to move this forward. I should say, just to
Waste time.
we've removed MML. I'm going to ask for a motion to remove the Mercer Group from consideration. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on that. I would just point to the fact that the Mercer Group actually claimed that we were a client, and we were not, so that's a blatant error, so that's problematic there. So is there any further discussion on the Mercer Group? Okay. Seeing none, roll call vote, please. This is to remove the Mercer Group.
Councilmember Barnes,
Yes.
Reed,
This is
To remove.
yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
and Mayor Brown.
Yes. Okay. So what remains are GovHR. Well, I'll start from the top. SGR, Slavin Management Consultants, Springstead, Raymond, and GovHR. And I'm assuming because the GovHR didn't give us, it's just the 20. I saw his hand first. Councilmember French.
Using a similar sort of criteria for eliminating candidates based on price, I would suggest that we eliminate the Raymond Group. They're at $30,000 for not to exceed, and SGR, they're at $28,000 not to exceed.
Okay.
They are the most expensive.
Okay. Is there any, so that's the motion, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. The one thing, let's see, the SGR was the one that actually had the discus management profile stuff. The question becomes, is that worth
No.
that additional, Councilmember French?
Ideally, a DISC assessment would require that the city council and the staff with whom the city manager would work would also take the DISC assessment in order to find an appropriate match of personality and work types. I don't see that as something that we want to spend an awful lot of time doing. So I would say not worth it.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? So we're basically, I guess it's Raymond, pronunciation there. That's 30. So let's.
The motion is to have two.
Yeah. One second. I'm trying to find something. Okay, I'm sorry.
I guess what I would suggest to council is I think maybe the council's approaching this the wrong way. Instead of eliminating the ones that are the highest, I mean, you're working from the bottom of the list up.
Yeah.
So I think we need to determine whether the next lowest bidder qualifies.
Okay.
Rather than, I mean, because hypothetically, you could get through
You're right.
the bottom of your list and realize, okay, maybe you have to go with the highest bidder, but
Yeah.
so really, you need to go to government HR and determine if they're fit. If they're not, then you go to Slavin, and if they're not, then you go to Springstead.
Okay.
So on and so forth.
Okay. Councilmember French.
So given that advice of our esteemed city attorney, I withdraw my motion.
Okay. Okay. Councilmember French.
And then I would ask our mayor and those who voted against Michigan Municipal League to identify who they would like to talk about next.
Well, I think,
Given the time.
Well, I think the attorney made it very clear. So the phrasing was misleading there. So the attorney made it very clear that we go to the next one that is most expensive.
But I understand that.
Yeah.
But I would also like to know in advance of that conversation who you would like us to be thinking about. And if it is government HR, then I can say, that's fine.
That's it.
And move on. If it's somebody else,
Okay.
then I just need to know what people's opinions are so we can have a discussion that's
So,
fruitful.
just a point of order. That is the point of discussion, right? So we're going to as we go up the list, we're going to discuss.
Answer my
Okay.
question?
Okay. Okay. We are discussing government HR right now. Okay. Do I have a motion to so since we're going to do it the opposite instead of removing, we're going to do approval, and if it's not approved, we'll do it that way. Is there a motion to approve government HR?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
Moved in second. Let's go to discussion. Discussion. Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you, Mayor. I would support the GovHR with regard to the consultant that they would be assigning to us. They are local, located in Michigan, and are former city managers in Michigan as well. And they have had placed several, according to the city manager list that they provided, they placed several city manager placements in Michigan. In addition to meeting the scope and responsibilities with regard to our city manager requirements. So for those reasons, I could support GovHR RFQ for city manager search.
Is there further discussion? The one from council, okay. When I was looking through, obviously MML is Michigan based, so they're primarily going to be doing Michigan things. So the thing that I was looking at was they actually, within the recent period of time, have done the searches for Battle Creek and Kalamazoo. One of the, let's see. Where is that? Give me 1 second. It's in the other sheet. They've also done what Councilmember Spicer said. They've done searches in cities of varying sizes in Michigan. So, you know, the one thing when I went through these, I was really impressed by, I know we're not discussing them, but the SGR, but we're required to we're basically required to do the lowest that can fulfill the need, right? And so I think what I'm hearing from council is we need experience in Michigan. We need, obviously the price, we need experience in Michigan, and we need the resources to do it. I know one of the concerns, because I raised this with the city attorney as well, is we can examine, let's say, staffing or how much staff that the firm could assign to the search, right? So if it's like a sole, you know, a sole consultant versus, you know, you could have a team or the staff of the entity. So I think that's something we can take in consideration. So I would feel comfortable voting for that, but is there further discussion from council? Councilmember French.
So I'd like to know the opinion of our council members as to the difference in quality of services that is offered by government HR versus Michigan Municipal League, which we just voted on. Because I would agree that SGR was the high end and could offer more services than MML. But since we are required by law, by state or city charter to look at the lowest, what are the things that government HR is going to do for us that MML was not going to do for us?
Okay.
I just had a quick question because I don't.
Attorney Harkness. Sorry.
I don't know if it's reflected on the spreadsheet here. I seem to recall, and maybe Interior Manager Kip can clear this up. I seem to recall one of these firms that was out of state also requesting room and board, and I don't know if that's reflected in here.
This one requires, they have a set number of times that they will come here, and then if there's additional days are needed, it will be billed at $500 per half day and $950 per full day. So if we request that they come on additional times other than what was initially provided, there would be more cost to it. And that also includes additional hotel charges, and it also doesn't include travel or hotel for the candidates, I don't believe.
But I don't think any.
I don't think any of them do
Yeah.
either. Right.
Yeah.
So, right, it's just written in there, that's all.
So, does that?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I just wasn't sure, I wanted, for purposes of making sure that the council's going in order, I just wanted to make sure that if the numbers that are on here reflect whether or not the firm was requesting room and board and things like that, so make sure you're going in order.
Okay. So back to your question. Repeat your question.
My question is, what are the services that GovHR USA will provide to us as our search firm that MML was not able to provide?
I think the thing that I was going through here when I was looking at this was
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. For me, if I may, Mayor, thank you. I had several conversations with two city managers and a mayor with regard to their use of MML for their recruitment for their city, a mayor and two city managers who left a city and that city formerly used MML. They weren't, I didn't get really high praises from them with regard to MML, and as you know, I've not had experience with MML because I wasn't here for the last hiring of the city attorney, but the people I've spoken with just did not highly recommend MML, whereas with a couple of the other entities, search firms, they did. My reasoning for my position. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion from council? Okay. So we have a motion on the table. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. This would be to approve GovHR. If that fails, we have to reconsider the next one up, but we have to justify it as well too. So, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
Barnes,
No.
Reed,
Yes.
and Mayor Brown.
Yes. Okay. There was an amendment to the agenda that was sent out, so I don't know if it. Oh,
I'm sorry, before you move on.
Yes.
Since the council's never done this before, going through the lowest bidders, the ordinance requires that when an award is not given to the lowest bidder, a full and complete statement of the reasons for placing the award with non-lowest bidder be prepared by the purchasing agent, which would be our manager, and filed with the other papers related to the transaction. So when we start doing stuff for that contract, we need to have a statement of reasons why they weren't awarded it. We'll just put it with their contract or their engagement letter or whatever. And I'm certainly happy to help you with that, Scott. Thank you.
Okay. H, request approval resolution 2018-7, a resolution to support the Transforming Albion project under a HUD Choice neighborhood.
So moved.
Well, 1 second. I was trying to get some order here. Okay. Department of Housing, Urban Development Choice Neighborhood Grant Application, authorizing to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Michigan State University School of Planning, Design, and Construction for the grant activities, and authorizing a commitment of local contribution. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
Moved and seconded. Do you want to explain?
I can read the email if you want.
Well, I'll make one statement and then.
Go ahead.
Okay. So basically, if council remembers and the public remembers, a couple months ago, we applied to this grant and we did not receive it. But it seems like our good fortune now that a lot of things that we're applying to, we're getting another shot at. who, the Michigan State partner here is who's also working on with us with the, they doing the zoning, or are they doing the civic training?
Civic training.
Civic training. So the city is also in partnership with Michigan State Extension on some civic engagement work. And so we were contacted by them to basically reapply. I think the contribution was 10,000.
That part I don't know.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
I think you're correct, but.
But this is a grant that we had already committed to, we just didn't get, and so we're getting another opportunity. So the manager can.
The only thing I can say in the email that they sent is that we were unsuccessful with the application, and now we're going to reapply for the same application. The project is $1.3 million over 3.5 years, beginning in 2019 if funded. The program involves public engagement, community planning, and the transformation plans for precincts 1, 2, and 3 with Albion to address crime, employment, transportation, and health issues. So that's what the project is for.
And I will say, when it came before us the first time, I think there was a partnership. I don't know if they did memorandums of understanding also, but with the Housing Commission, and I want to say the school district was included the last time as a partner with that, because it's basically the context of this is when council approved the resolution that we would not lower the units in public housing. Because I remember we took a vote on that. So it's the same grant. So are there any discussion from council? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I remember last time, in addition to not decreasing the number of units, we also did not want residents displaced.
Okay.
And
Yep.
I didn't see anything in there to trigger that, but I just wanted to state that.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. Attorney Harkness.
The only one thing I think we should include in the MOU is that the term, there's no term set in there, so we should probably include, because we're mandated by charter, that the term of the MOU should not exceed 10 years, but subject to renewal by mutual agreement.
Okay.
And I don't anticipate that they would have any problem with that.
Okay. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Attorney Harkness, could you repeat what did you say?
Sure. We have a provision in our charter that any contracts that we enter into can't exceed 10 years. So what I was saying is that the MOU, since there's no term provision in there anywhere, I would say that the term of the MOU is for a period of time not to exceed 10 years, but can be renewed upon mutual agreement by the parties. So in effect, it can go in perpetuity, but 10-year increments.
Thank you.
The one question I have, so the modification you made, do we need to make a formal amendment to the motion for that, or can you just do that when we?
I think you can just do it with the amendment. Yeah, do a formal amendment.
Okay. So do I have a motion to amend the motion here to include the language that our attorney has brung forward?
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. All those in favor? Is there any discussion on that amendment? Okay. All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
So we're now back to the main motion with that amendment. Is there any further discussion? Okay. There is a match. Tentatively, I think it's 10,000. Yeah, 10% or 10,000.
It's usually 10%.
10%.
So it'd be close to 10,000.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yeah.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
and Mayor Brown.
Yes. We will move on now to future agenda items. Councilmember Barnes, Councilmember Lawler.
Discussion approval, 608 Austin Avenue.
Okay. Councilmember Lawler.
I actually have two, Mayor. I want to put a discussion and set a date where we can have a special meeting. It doesn't matter, for Project Rising Tide. Get the people together and let's get this.
Thank you for saying that.
Go ahead.
Well,
And if we could set a date for the citywide pickup, because one of the things that I'm trying to do for my precinct, since there are elderly that are unable to get things from their property to one of the sites of the choice is to seek help for them. So I need to have a date that will actually do that.
Okay. Is there any further, Attorney Harkness?
You don't usually get to talk this much. Something that I'd like the council to consider, or at least get a feeling of whether or not the council would be in favor of this, is right now there's a piece of legislation making its way through the state legislature. As the council's probably aware, the Public Safety Department, for long before I was the city attorney, has been engaged in a significant amount of asset forfeiture under the Controlled Substances Act. It's something that the city has done on two fronts. One, to combat the manufacturing and distribution of drugs and the funneling of illegal currency through the seizure of assets. There's a bill going through right now that's going to modify how that process occurs and make it significantly harder for law enforcement to do that. So what I'd like the council to consider is supporting a resolution in opposition to that legislation that we can submit to the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Okay. So the one question, because I'm familiar with that. So I'm not familiar with all the intricacies of it, but I am familiar. So currently, as it stands, for example, the context I'm used to. Well, we can put it as a discussion. I don't have to discuss it now. Yeah, that works. Okay. I'm sorry. Thank you. I apologize. Councilmember Brown, Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you, Mayor. At our last meeting during council member comments, I said I was going to come to council and urge us to discuss the relationship as it stands currently between our public entity of the EDC and its relationship with ARC. So I'm asking to add that as a discussion item on our next agenda. I am also asking, in preparation for that discussion, that we, council, receive the money that has been brought in from TIFA for the past 3 years. Please. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any additional future agenda items this evening?
Just Mayor.
Councilmember Lawler. Oh, excuse me. Spicer, I'm sorry. I was
Thank
looking.
you. Just a reminder that we are going to have by the next meeting the selling price, closing cost info. Correct. That's on the next.
Okay.
Thank you.
Since we haven't had one in a while, I'm going to put this out. I'm going to work on this. Since I've been on council, we've had at least 2 citizens advisory committees. We had one on information technology, and we had one on sustainability. And so I would like to do one on community development. So I'm going to be working with the interim manager and the attorney to draft language for that, hopefully by our next meeting. And what that allows us to do is to continue that group from Rising Tide in a more formal way. So that's going to be on the next agenda. So basically, a Citizens Advisory Committee on Community Development. Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you. One more thing. I don't for future purposes, I think I would like council to take a look at possibly, I know that there are minority businesses that want to be in the downtown district, and I would like for the council to, I don't know if we can consider this, looking at ways to possibly make that happen. I don't know if we can certify a certain number of percentage of minority business downtown, but that's just something I'd like us to consider for future purposes.
Okay. Is there any future agenda items from council this evening? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to, everyone is here. Public comments. Persons addressing City Council shall limit their comments to no more than 3 minutes. We ask that you observe proper decorum, your name and address, and these are just for general comments.
Sure. Marcia McGarrah, 1000 West Erie. I wanted to address item number, or letter F, request approval of the waiver of the right of refusal of the Calhoun County foreclosed properties. I was happy that you mapped out the properties. I'm curious if everybody here drove them all. drove any of them. We have interest in purchasing some of them from Albion. We're looking to do some sober living, work with the college, possibly give some free rent to the students to help us with our sober living. But it seems like if you're in need of money to knock down some of your other properties, you would maybe have some interest in selling those properties instead of giving them back for taxes.
Are there any, Mr. Worley?
Hi, everyone. It's been a while. Eric Worley of the Greater Albion Chamber of Commerce. As was discussed earlier tonight, the fireworks are happening on July 3rd. We are currently in the process of raising funds for that, so I know everyone here wants to set an example in their precincts, so I will accept check or cash from everyone at some point. You can mail it to P.O. Box 223 here in Albion, or drop off cash donations at the chamber. We've got our company all planned out and everything. It's about a $10,000 expense. John Shedd said that we have a $3,000 rollover from last year, so we only need to get around $7,000 to make it happen this year, but any extra will still go in that rollover fund. That will keep the fireworks happening year after year. So July 3rd is when they're happening. July 5th will be the makeup date, so if anyone has any questions, you can contact me at the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further comments this evening from the public? Okay. Seeing none, and we're gonna, I'm gonna give a little, well, no, I'm going to to adjourn. Basically, I'm going to acknowledge something that Councilmember Barnes stated, and we need to include in the rules, which is basically when individuals come to speak to us and they have a question, we don't want to directly do that, but I think there eventually does need to be a way for us to answer back. I will talk to you after the meeting about that. But seeing no further comments this evening, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Any opposed? This meeting is adjourned.
Okay, I need a
Okay.